Have you ever thought about changing how you speak? Trying to achieve a more natural accent. For instance, maybe you live in North America, or maybe you hear accents on the news or people around you, and you're like, I actually want to have a more natural sound. I want to sound more like, for instance, people in North America, like the US, Canada, or different from, for instance, like a British accent or an Australian accent or something like that. But you may not know what to actually change. Well, today, we're going to be taking a look at clips of audio that people have sent to us, and we're going to give some suggestions to them to discuss what are the differences that we need to do, the different techniques and strategies in order to achieve what would be a more natural sound when it comes to American English. Good morning, guys. Good evening. Good afternoon. Welcome to your American English Pronunciation review show, which is the Schwa Mill. We are here Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays, right around 7 a.m. New York, to look at pronunciation files that you sent to us. And to guide you in this process, there is me. What's up, guys? My name is Jeff. It rhymes with breath. That's one of the 4 keys for a natural sound in American English, including placement, pitch, breath, trying to weaken your consonant sounds in order to strengthen your vowel sounds. We're probably going to be talking about one or many of those concepts today when we look at the files that we have received. So let's get into it. This is the first file that I received for today, and let's see what sort of feedback we can give for them.
I like a guy who's nice, smart, goofy, wears glasses. Yes, I love guys who have bad eyesight. Got a problem with that? It's called a preference.
Okay, I'll play it one more time.
I like a guy who's nice, smart, goofy, wears glasses. Yes, I love guys who have bad eyesight. Got a problem with that? It's called a preference.
Okay, I think this does. Well, first of all, thanks you for sending this. Thanks to everyone who's been sending files. Again, it's hard to have a review show without files to review. I like a lot of what this is doing, and part of this comes down to the fact that I think in any language, if you want to achieve a more natural sound, you have to find ways to express emotion in that language. Because a lot of times when we learn a language, we're learning it in school. It's very sanitized. It's almost like approaching the language like a tool versus actually approaching the language like something that's alive, and used to communicate. And so what I think this file does a great job of is it does a great job of incorporating emotion. So what are the techniques here that are being used to show that emotion?
I like a guy who's nice, smart, goofy, wears glasses. Yes.
Okay. So there's some, for instance, some play around with firmness and softness. Like it starts off slightly soft, not crazy soft, but a little bit. Like I like a guy who's, and then what it does is it becomes firmer and raises the pitch a little bit, right? Like smart, duh, 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 duh. It's like those little shifts. And again, it doesn't have to be crazy. It's not a lot firmer, and it's like not a lot higher in pitch, but it's enough to show the change in emotion. And I think that does a really good job here for that part.
I like a guy who's nice, smart, goofy, wears glasses. Yes, I love guys who have bad eyesight. Got a problem with that?
And then it kind of continues with those little pitch movements as well. Like, yes, I like guys who, or then it does things like, got a problem with that? So it's like, we're changing the music. Also, just listen to like kind of like the pitch patterns. At first, it's like tuh, tuh, tuh. And then later, what pattern do we get? Duh, 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 duh. Like, got a problem with that? It's like those shifts in music and those shifts in tone are effective for conveying emotion. One other little technique that I thought was really effective here was the use of breath. I'll try to show you where.
I like a guy who's nice, smart, goofy, wears glasses.
It's like, notice that we got that list. Like, nice, smart, goofy, who wears glasses. Like that little quick breath there. It's enough to kind of break the pattern because it could have just been nice, smart, goofy, who wears glasses. But it's nice, smart, goofy, who wears glasses. Like that little break. I know it's small, but like that little detail I think is really effective. It conveys a sense that we're actively kind of thinking through all the different adjectives and things like that. So it's just a lot of little techniques there. With the breath control, the pitch movements, the shifts to firmness and softness. That said, what do we do with this? Where else can we go with this? So I think we have some opportunities to incorporate even more contrast if we wanted. I'm looking at like that yes part.
I like a guy who's nice, smart, goofy, wears glasses. Yes, I love guys who.
Because what ends up happening is we get this little section. It's like glasses. Yes, I love. It's like that little sequence of 3-4 syllables is somewhat repetitive. All the pitches are pretty close together. Like I think if we had dropped on the yes, that would have been effective. Like going lower in the pitch, like who wears glasses? Yes, I love, like something like that. Just again, it's those little movements for contrast that make the difference. And a little drop there, I think, could have been effective. The other point of contrast that might be helpful here is a little bit with speed.
I like a guy who's nice, smart, goofy, wears glasses. Yes, I love guys who have bad eyesight. Got a problem with that? It's called a preference.
Because everything here, there are some changes in speed, but everything is more or less around the same pace. I love guys who are smart, duh, who wears glasses. Yes, got a problem with that? Like, there's moments here where we could go slower. Like, what if we start slower? Like, I like guys who are, smart, who wear glasses. Yeah, got a problem with that? It's like, for instance, the got a problem with that part could have sped up a little bit more and things like that. So I think there's some opportunities here to continue playing around with speed. Okay, if you're going to go slow, go slow. And if you're going to go fast, go fast. Mix it up a little bit more. That would be probably my biggest point of contrast here that I think could continue amplifying it. Okay. But thank you so much for sending this audio file. Again, thanks to everyone sending this audio file. Great stuff to work with. Before we move on to our next section, I just want to highlight a feature that YouTube has that maybe people don't fully understand or know what's happening and things like that, which is like channel memberships. Like, what does it actually mean to be a channel member? And I can't speak for other channels, but I can tell you that for us, if you're a YouTube channel member, what happens is you get access to all of our small group coaching sessions. Okay, so every day, multiple times a day, I'm working directly with students, kind of like what we do right now, but actually live with people. So you get to hear them, you get to hear my suggestions for them, and you get to see the changes that they make. And obviously it's longer because these streams only work with people for a couple minutes. So if you're interested in seeing what those group coaching experiences are like, and you want to interact with us in the chat, hang out with us multiple times during the day, you can see many days, Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. I'm hanging out with students generally from like around 9 a.m. right around up to like 11:30 a.m. with some breaks in between. And then we have some evening sessions around 9 to 9:30 p.m. New York. So if you want to hang out with us, see the feedback I'm giving, start to go take your serious journey into your pronunciation, into American English, and understanding how sounds work. And also just how communication works. Because the secret that I tell people is, I tell people I'm an accent coach, but I'm not really an accent coach. We're really learning communication and how to become more effective at speaking in any language. Okay. Take a look at that. It'll be great to see you there. We have a quick question from Tom before you jump into our second file. Tom said, "More Geoff, would you mind going a rabbit hole about low energy and soft speech versus high energy and firm speech? There's a gray area of overlap in them. Thanks a bunch in advance." Yeah. I mean, I think, again, it's hard because I don't know necessarily that there's an exact science to this, but low energy, when I hear low energy, what do I think of? I think of lower pitches and a slower speech. Like, imagine I start the stream off by saying, "Hey guys, did you want to study, an American English accent? Maybe." Like, that's very low energy, and people pick up on that. And so instead, how do people generally start? They're like, "Hey guys, did you want to actually start making changes to your pronunciation, how you talk, and start sounding the way that you want?" Things like that. It's a different energy level, right? So it's not about yelling necessarily, and it's not about whispering necessarily, but I think a big component of it is pitch, the frequency of pitch. Low pitch, again, generally going to be like lower energy, higher pitch, higher energy. Some of it's about speed. Again, slower can remove energy. faster can take it away. And it's about firmness and softness too. Speaking softer, things like this, is lower energy than speaking firmer and things like this. We need both, by the way. You can't be all high energy. Like an action movie has to have times where things are calm. And slower movies need to have moments where things pick up. So it's like we need both. But you can kind of start getting an idea for, are you more of a lower energy speaker or are you more of a higher energy speaker? And start asking yourself, maybe there's ways I can start incorporating more of the opposite to just become a little bit more dynamic. Okay. So just a quick note on that. If there's other specific questions you have, I'll be happy to try to address those too. Let's take a listen to our second and final clip.
The question is whether we will shape that change purposefully or merely react to it. Proactive vision requires courage but offers rewards passivity cannot.
Okay. So I think our big thing here that we're going to be talking about is vowel sounds.
The question is whether we will shape that change purposefully or merely react to it. Proactive vision requires courage but offers rewards passivity cannot.
Okay, so what's happening is, first of all, again, thank you for sending this. What's happening is we are reducing some sounds so much that we're actually kind of losing them. Okay, so a couple words I'll highlight for you. For instance, the word merely.
The question is whether we will shape that change purposefully or merely react.
It's like merely react versus merely react. Okay, there's also another word, I think it was achieve.
The question is whether we will shape that change.
I think that was achieve, whether we will, I think, achieve that change. So here's the thing, I can't even say for certain that's the word, but I believe it is. And the reason I can't say for certain is because it's so reduced. Okay, whether we will achieve that change. Remember, American English is a language that's built around vowel sounds. So if your vowels are off in any way, like you shift the placement too high, you reduce it too much, you let the consonant sounds take over, you're making life harder for your listener. Okay, so we have to be mindful of that. Alyssa's hanging out with us. Good to see you, miss. Be sure to take a look at earlier in the file because I was taking a look at, or earlier in the stream because I was looking at your file. So we have a lot of reductions here that we need to be careful of because we're losing some of our key vowel sounds. It's like achieve, merely.
The question is whether we will shape that change purposefully or merely react to it. Proactive vision requires courage but offers rewards passivity cannot.
And that last part, specificity versus like specificity, maybe, or maybe misunderstanding that word as well. But it gets back to that central theme of, again, we have to be careful with our vowel sounds. Give more space to your vowels. Give more space to your vowels. My second major comment for this file is that let's talk pitch ranges really quick. You're just repeating the same pitch ranges over and over again. We're stuck in the mid. We're not using any high. We're not using any low. Every time we start a new group, we're just restarting the same pitch range over and over again.
The question is whether we will shape that change purposefully or merely react to it.
The question is whether we will achieve that change purposefully or merely react to it. So it's just, I'm just repeating like da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Like all the notes are all the same. I'm using the same like 4 notes. A piano has what, 84 keys, 88 keys? Like imagine you're trying to play piano and I'm saying, hey, you can only use these 4 notes. The whole piano, you can only use these 4 notes. Imagine I tell you that. And I say, now go play Beethoven. Go play Bach. How are you going to do that? You know? You got to increase your pitch range. It's fine. Like you can play some songs on those 4 notes, right? And it can even be enjoyable songs. But you're never going to be able to play everything. Okay? You got to increase your pitch range. What would it sound like if you did?
The question is whether we will shape that change.
It's like you know, the question is whether we will achieve that change or whether we're merely going to. And that's just an example, you know, but it's just to kind of demonstrate what it sounds like if you go high sometimes, but then you also go low. You got to change it. You got to add to your pitch range. You have a solid mid range. That's great. Now we got to learn the other stuff.
The question is whether we will shape that change purposefully or merely react to it. Proactive vision requires courage but offers rewards specific.
elements of contrast. Besides pitch, the firmness level is more or less the same. It's like, imagine I only talk like this. Everything I say will sound with this level of firmness for everything I say. Versus if sometimes I'm firm, but then sometimes I go softer. Sometimes we gotta go soft. It's not all firm. It's not all soft. Okay. Okay. I'll play again.
The question is whether we will shape that change.
So, like, for instance, if I played around with firmness of sophomores more there, like the question is whether we will achieve that change or whether we will merely, so you can hear in the middle there I went softer, and then on the ends I went firmer. Okay. Tom, just a quick note, I do have to run. If you remind me tomorrow, I'll be happy to talk about this as well. But hopefully, I did try to give some examples here as well. What I would say also is, like, when you're listening to people, see if you can make your own database of, like, files that have high energy, files that have low energy. We have to make our own hypotheses and test them. Okay.
The question is whether we will shape that change purposefully or merely react to it. Proactive vision requires courage, but offers.
My final comment for this audio file, before I do have to run, is that you have a lot of stresses. And when you have a lot of stresses, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it can result in what I call bobbing, where we just get stuck repeating, again, the same pitch ranges. This may be the reason why we're having trouble tapping into a wider pitch range. Okay. Because you're stressing almost every other word.
The question is whether we will shape that change purposefully or merely react.
It's like the question is whether we will achieve that change purposefully or merely, so it's like every 3 or 4 words I'm stressing something. That's a lot of stresses. Versus if I do, like, the question is whether we will achieve that change purposefully or merely react to it. So that would be an example of fewer stresses, and also changing the placement of stresses. Sometimes they're at the beginning, sometimes they're at the end. It's a new experience. It gets back to probably the last piece of advice I'll give for today. Thank you again for sending that file. Is that communication requires tension. The tension of surprise. As soon as your listener knows what's going to happen next, they're out. They don't care anymore. Okay. The joke only works the first time. That's when the joke works best. It works the second time if you tell it to someone new, because then it's, again, the first time for them, right? It's the same thing for a lot of experiences. Like, for instance, the movie very often is the best the first time you see it. How do you recapture that surprise? It's the same thing in communication. As soon as your listener knows what to expect, they don't care anymore. So this is one of the other reasons why contrast is vital, not just for English, but for any language. Okay, we got to increase our range of everything. A quick note, if you just a reminder that if you're an Institute member, so fluentamerican.com/institute, we have a workshop. It's about a 30-minute webinar that just talks about 10 ways to increase your contrast. Okay, we talked about a lot of them today, but there's a lot of other strategies as well. If you're a channel member, you'll see me talking about elements of contrast all the time in the group coaching and things like that. But even if you're just watching the stream, listening to those examples I gave today, we talked about energy levels, we talked about pitch, we talked about speed, talked about firmness. You got to incorporate it into your own speech. Having said all that, I do have to run, guys. But hey, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I'll be back again tomorrow and Friday at 7 a.m. New York. And keep going. Thanks for being here. There's a lot of resources out there. So the fact you spent some time out of your day here is appreciated. I'll see you guys later.